This is the Ramana Maharshi 40 Verses on Reality Satsang, a time for self-reflection and self-inquiry. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. I'm Richard Clarke, hosting this satsang. Welcome. I'm a seeker like you, sharing what we love. I've been blessed with years of deep teaching and practice. I bring this to the satsang. This week's reading from 40 Verses on Reality is verse 9. These are Ramana's words. The duality of subject and object, and trinity of seer, sight, and seen can only exist if supported by the One. If one turns inward in search of that one reality, they fall away. Those who see this are those who see wisdom. They are never in doubt. The self is the substratum on which duality and trinities exist. Dualities and trinities only seem to exist so long as you do not see the one in which they all shine. When you know the one, they all fall away, since you know that in which they rise and fall. Is the ring anything else than the gold? Dualities and trinities seem to obscure, to cover the self, like clouds cover the sun. When the clouds part, the sun shines unabated. So it is with the self. Remove the obscuration, and the self shines by itself. The obscurations consist only of your not knowing the reality, of ignorance. When this reality is known directly, doubts and misconceptions can stand no longer. When this reality is known directly, you can see that it is your reality, your only reality. How can you doubt your own reality, your own existence? Now some notes for practice. When you look deep within, how many do you find? Do you see any dualities? Or is there only one reality? How many existences do you have? Are there two of you, one to know the other? Or is there only one existence that knows itself? This is the common experience that is in our heart. We are just one. What is your experience? Now to our videos of the week. First, here, let me get them set up, excuse me. First is Swami Sarvapriyananda, and this video is the second step of 2 steps to the nut 2.
I am not the mind, not the intellect, not the memory, not the ego. Very interesting. He says, even I am not the ego. What is the ego? The I sense. Right now you'll say, I am sitting here and listening to a talk. I. This ego. This is the ego, which says I in the mind all the time. Are you the ego even? You are not. If you apply the same logic, you are aware of the ego. Because when it says I, you are aware of what is aware of the ego? In your mind right now. That's your real nature. That can never be objectified. The ego is also an object. It's a functioning of the mind. I am not the ego. Chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. I am of the nature of pure consciousness and bliss. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. Are you with me so far? You have a question? Hold on. We'll come. Just hold on to your question. Don't forget. Hold on to your questions, and we'll take time out to deal with them. Shankara at this point asks, are you with me so far? And you can imagine the students saying, yes, good. This is great. I am the immortal consciousness, neither mind nor body. Have you got what I said? They say, yes, we got it. And Shankara says, now I'm going to take it all back. You got it? Yes, you got it wrong. I don't mean one bit of it, whatever I've said till now. Shankara says in the 41st verse of Aparoksha Anubhuti, what do you gain by this? He says, nothing. This, what we have done now, is the first step, the very first step to non-duality. It is not non-duality. He points out, where is non-duality? You are some kind of awareness, that's what we are trying to say. All right, but here is the mind obviously before you, and the body, this person that I am, and the world, the vast world before me, populated by other persons, and by so many other entities in this world. How is it non-dual? It's full of dualities. It's plural. How is it Advaita? What's going on here? Shankara says, at this point if you stop, what have you, I'm translating his verse, what have you gained? It is exactly the philosophy, he says, of the logicians. Now think, in Hinduism, there are many philosophies. So there are the philosophies of the dualists. What do the dualists say in Hinduism? The dualists, there it means, the metaphysical dualist, that is, I am a self apart from the body and mind. Exactly what we were discussing. That is what the Nyaya school says of Hinduism, the Vaisheshika school, the Sankhya school, the Yoga school. They all say this, that I am not the body, I am not the mind. I am the Atman, the self, apart from the body and mind. Exactly what we are discussing right now. And Shankara says that won't do. We have to go further, deeper. Are you a consciousness, and is there something apart from you called the mind and the body and the universe? Seems to be. But we have to investigate this. If you stop at this point, I am a point of consciousness, and here is my mind and body, they are apart from me, they are changing, and they are without awareness, they are many, I am one, and so on. I am this unchanging, immortal consciousness. By the way, already you have reached an immortal consciousness, because if you are not subject to change, then you are not subject to birth and death. The body is born. You, the awareness, are not born. Nobody till today has seen consciousness being born. You've seen what seems to be a baby becoming conscious or becoming aware, a person waking up from sleep. That's just consciousness flooding the mind and the body. But consciousness itself being born or destroyed, nobody has seen. And logically it's impossible, because if it's not subject to change, how can it die? So we have already reached this. I mean, why go any further? I am the immortal consciousness. That's it. It's great. Shankara says if you stop here, you have reached the position of the Sankhya philosophers who say you are a conscious entity apart from the universe. There is the whole universe, it's going on, your own body and mind, according to its own laws. You are an unchanging point of light of consciousness. I think just a couple of days ago, we celebrated the great German philosopher Leibniz, his birthday. How I know is Google gives it's Leibniz's birthday. And he was behind a lot of the mathematics which has gone into our computer science and everything, so Leibniz. Calculus. He was a deep philosopher, and he came to this conclusion that ultimately what we are, he used to call them monads. What we are, each of us really, we are not bodies, we are not minds, we are eternal spirits. And the example is like dots of light in the night sky, the stars which shine cold and indifferent eternally, not literally eternally, but in the night sky, we are like that, eternally separate from each other. We come into contact with each other only through our automatons, our bodies and persona. But really speaking, we are eternally separated consciousnesses. Monads used to call them. This is exactly what Shankara is saying, that you stop here, this is the Sankhya philosophy. This is not Advaita. You have to go deeper. This is step 1. Now comes step 2. It actually gets harder. Now Shankara is going to show that the entirety of the universe which you experience, and the body and the mind separate from you, the consciousness, they are not actually separate from you. You, the consciousness, and this whatever you experience, they are none other than you, they are your expressions. The objects of consciousness are not two. It is not like light shining and here I am is an object upon which the light is shining. The light is different and the object is different. That's what we think. No. Consciousness is rather like a mirror in which you see so many reflections. They had the mirror example. Now a much better example is like a computer screen. So it's a screen in which so many things appear, but all the things which appear on the screen are nothing other than the screen itself. It is what projects everything in itself. Consciousness and its objects are not separate. And that's a nice statement to make. Can you prove it? Yes, I can. Watch this. When can you say two things are separate? When can I really say, in my own experience, when can I experience two things as being separate? Two things can be said to be separate if I can experience them separately. If these two things are separate, how do I know? I can show you the paper apart from the watch. I can show you the watch independently of the paper. And I can show them together also. But because I can show them separately, you say, yeah, they exist separately. Let me give you an even better example. A person. How do you know that the person has real teeth or dentures? So normally you wouldn't know, because the person always has the teeth. You don't know whether he's wearing them or they are really part of his mouth, his jaw. The only way to know is if you suddenly go to his house and you find this old person opens the door with a kindly, toothless, grandfatherly smile, and the teeth are sitting in a little bowl in the solution there on the desk. Now you know, oh, they are dentures. They are not. They're two different entities. Usually they go together, so I don't know. We don't really know whether they're separate or not. But now I have seen them separately. They are two different entities. Are you with me with this example? Simple enough. Now apply it to consciousness and its objects, to you and everything else that you experience. The entire universe and you, the consciousness, they are two separate things if and only if they can be experienced apart from each other. It is literally impossible to do that. Can you ever experience anything apart from consciousness? The word consciousness is literally built into the word experience. There can be no experience apart from consciousness. Think about it. Everything that you have experienced in life, from the beginning till now and whatever will happen in the future, has always been in your awareness. Is it not so? Right? In you, the awareness, that's where you've experienced. Whether you see something or hear something, or smell or taste or touch, it is all in awareness. Whether you remember something, think of something, whether you understand, do not understand, desire something, achieve something, it's all in awareness. The entire universe, can it ever be experienced apart from awareness? Never. Think about it. Again, a very simple fact, but a tremendous fact. The object of consciousness cannot be experienced apart from consciousness. For consciousness, for experience, consciousness is absolutely mandatory. Without consciousness, no experience. It's a tremendous fact. Simple, always present to us, but we don't think about it. In that case, we have no right to speak of the object of consciousness being separate from consciousness. The world is not something out there which my consciousness goes out like a flashlight beam and experiences. No. The world is in my consciousness. Being in my consciousness, it is pervaded by consciousness. Is it something other than consciousness? No. Shankara says, it is you, the consciousness alone, with the mysterious power of Maya, which appears to be the object of consciousness. You alone appear as your world, as the world out there, as the people, even as your own body and your own mind, body, world, which we rejected earlier. Not me, not me, not me. Neti, neti, is now realized as the shining forth of me, the consciousness. I shine forth as the universe. I am one with the universe. None of these people here, none of these things here is actually different from you, the real you. If you root yourself in the body, clearly there are other bodies, other people. Clearly. Always go with experience. As I said at the very beginning, all these teachings, after understanding, listening, you must relate it back to your experience. Advaita makes the bold claim that not one thing which Advaita says is beyond your experience right now. Right now. The highest spiritual realization is not beyond your experience right now. It's right now, right here. In fact, there is a term in Kashmiri Shaiva philosophy called Pratyabhijna. It means recognition. You don't have to be illumined or enlightened or anything like that. All you need to do is recognize. It's right here. You are experiencing it. You don't recognize it. You don't recognize what you're experiencing.
All right. Now we have Mooji, and Mooji says, you are consciousness.
Yes, let's talk a little bit about this then. Who speaks? Who wants to be free? It is, first of all, coming back down to the sense of beingness, the feeling I am. And this feeling, it doesn't belong to any religion, any parents, any date of birth, any gender, nothing like this. It's pure consciousness. But in its manifestation in the body, it is calling itself, I am the body. And this identification, I am the body, has given rise to the feeling, this is me, I am the person. Meaning the conditioning that arose upon the feeling, I am the body. That was the root. The root concept, the mother concept, father concept is, I am this body, and then other conditioning such as, you went to school here, these are your parents, all of this can begin to build on top of that. So that is also consciousness, but it is consciousness in a more limited and restrictive uniform. And once this identity, I am the body, has somehow embedded itself, then the other beliefs can come, and consciousness seems to pour itself, hangs out in that state, in that belief, I am the body. Therefore, all the human beings are referring, transacting with each other on the basis, I am the body. And this we call our life, our existence. But truth is, we are consciousness. And spirituality means, again, to return to our original self-awareness, that we are consciousness. Because with having the identity and the body, for a while the consciousness enjoys. It enjoys the sense of individuality, the sense of, you may call, privacy, like you don't know what I'm thinking, and we like this feeling, our own private world, and to be successful or fail or what, all of these things can come into play. So this is this consciousness, after a while of being in the life, following its projections, its dreams, disappointments, seeing that the universe is not fulfilling your projections. You become sometimes disappointed, or for whatever reason, there are innumerable reasons why it begins to question its existence. Who really am I? What's it all about? What am I doing here? What am I doing here? I'm not happy, or nothing seems to be reliable, or whatever it is that brings this question, stirs up an investigation or a curiosity or an urge or even a kind of urgency to find something which is more stable than its projections. This, roughly speaking, is what has been taking place, and that consciousness in its very restricted identity has arisen now as the seeker. Before, not seeker, not interested. Now it is seeking something, is searching for truth. Before, it was searching for the front page, so to speak, of its intention was maybe to get married and to have a lot of money and to be famous or whatever it is. But in some cases, many cases, that's failed. Sometimes it's not failed. Sometimes people are here who have made a lot of money and have done lots of things, but still something is missing. And from whatever way it comes, they are drawn to look towards, is there something more than what I have known so far? And so many people here from all over the world, something has been calling. One magnet is calling. It's really calling inwardly, but as yet we were not able to follow that voice directly. So we have taken the route to come to this place in search of peace for our mind, to come back to the original identity. And I don't know if you are aware of Sri Ramana Maharshi. One of the things that he says, that I constantly refer to this statement, he says that the I, the feeling I am, which is common to all living beings, the feeling of existence, that this I removes I, yet remains I. And it seems a strange kind of thing to say, but what he really meant and means is the feeling I am, I exist, which is pure, simple being, must now shake off the belief that I am just the body-mind. It must transcend that belief. When it does, it returns again to just being I am. So this paradox explains a little bit what all of this is happening. Even as ego, because we say that God says I am, but the devil also says I am. This I is so universal. It appears to be the doer of actions and the thinker of thoughts. Almost behind every activity, it appears that the feeling of I arises as the one for whom these things, events in time and space and relationships, they are for this I. So here we have found that many people, they were spending a lot of time trying to correct the projections, what they see on the screen of consciousness, what I should do, where I should go, who I should see, what book I should read. But we felt now that unless you understand who it is who is doing these things, then you will not rest, because the activities are constantly changing. No one can stabilize them. Find the one for whom they exist. And this brings me to the question that you ask, you see. Who is it? Who is it that is making us stand for freedom? Who is it? And yet this important step has to be taken somehow because the consciousness is in the belief. Its whole presence and body language is showing that there's belief that I am the body-mind. And even to the extent sometimes that we say, yes, but there is no person there, there's no one there, some people say. But still it continues that even in their life, they're living as body-mind still. So you ask, who is asking the question? Is it not still the mind that asking, I want to be free? Then I can answer you now, having said all of these things, yes, it is the mind, but there is no such thing as mind by itself, any more than there can be moon without the sun. Like the moon is the reflected light of the sun, it has no light of its own. The mind also has no light of its own. It is reflecting the energy and the light that arises from the heart or the self, the true self. You see? So it's never any such thing as the body by itself. There cannot be the body by itself. It would just be, it would just decay. The life force is in the body to keep the body going. And in the same way, the feeling of me and mine and mind cannot be by itself. There's an umbilical cord to the pure self, from where it's deriving its juice, like this. So when we feel even the ego is also consciousness, but very restricted and limited consciousness. So when I say, yes, you asked the question, is it not the mind? I said, yes, it's the mind mixed with the beingness. The beingness is believing, I am the body-mind. That is the hypnosis that led to all of this suffering, all of this duality. Duality by itself is not a mistake. It's not a fault. It's not something bad. Because there cannot be experience without duality. So duality is the instrument of the Supreme in order to manifest as all of this amazing world. But still, the feeling, I am this body-mind persists. Even in people who have been practicing spirituality sometimes for a very long time even, and write books about it, but still in their lives betray the belief that I am this body, right?
And now we will listen to Nome in his discourse, One Without a Second.
Steady abidance as the self is the natural state. It is not natural to imagine the one self as if it were divided, and to consider oneself as distinct from that self or God, which is Brahman, the vast absolute. Steady abidance as the self is a matter of self-knowledge, knowing what in truth our existence actually is. If we take what is subject to modification to be the self, if we mix up what is not the self with the self, then quite obviously there will not be steady knowledge, and there will not be steady happiness or peace. If we inquire and know ourselves as we are, we find that which is the essence of steadiness itself, the forever unmodified, unchanging real nature, which is being, consciousness, bliss. This being, consciousness, bliss, this true existence, is in truth forever undivided, An Upanishad says that where there is a second, there is fear. That is, where one imagines there is something other, a second, there is fear. There is the fear of the loss of happiness, the loss of existence. No one wishes to go out of existence, for everyone intuits that his happiness lies in his existence and is identical with it. Bliss and being are synonymous. If there is something other than the one self, the infinite and eternal, unmodified existence, then that something other must be for someone. So when the Upanishad says a second, it refers to that one, as well as all the duality streaming forth from that one. If we assume as our identity that individual being, that second, then Brahman, or the real self, will seem as if it at a distance from us, and we will conceive of self-realization, or liberation as it is called, as if it were an event in time, perhaps in the future. As the Maharshi points out, if we assume the position of the second, that is, the individual jiva or individual ego, then we will see all kinds of multiplicity, all kinds of divisions, such as the knower, the knowing, and the known, the experiencer, the experiencing, and the thing experienced, the division between the universe, the supreme, and oneself. But Sri Bhagavan also says it is only so long as that individual is taken to be one's identity that such triads seem to exist. In truth, everything without exception is only the one undivided self-existence. How to abide steadily in the knowledge of that existence? That is what is important to know. As long as you assume yourself to be the individual who goes in and out of the self, how will there be steady abidance? That ignorant notion itself prevents the steady knowledge. If that notion were abandoned due to self-inquiry, profound self-inquiry, then the knowledge would be identical with your being, yourself identical with the self, with no other, no second, to experience anything else at any time. In other words, no second to imagine the delusion that gives rise to bondage and suffering. So, can you go into the self? Have you come out of the self? Can you be separate from God or Brahman? That you can say, I know that, or I don't know that? Similarly with all phenomena. Who is the individual who says, I know it, whatever the it is? Whatever the phenomenon is, from subtle thought down to sensed objects. Who is it that says, I know, I experience, I perceive? If the individual is existing, duality could be true. Inquire deeply within yourself. focused upon your own existence, and examine what composes your supposed individuality. The existence of the self is itself perfectly steady. It is without birth. It is without death. It is unembodied. It is unconceived. Imagine through delusion that you are or are connected with what is perceived and conceived, the mind and the body. And your happiness, your peace, while your very existence itself seems unsteady. And likewise, your knowledge of yourself is thus obscured. All the while, your real being, unembodied, unconceived, is unchanged, shining ever as pure consciousness, perfectly full, for it is never modified. Do you thus understand what you are? If you have doubts about it, or there is wavering in your experience, for whom are such doubts? For whom is such wavering? The supposed or assumed individual is himself the wavering. Inquire as to know what that one is, and you will find no individual at all. Just endless being, endless consciousness, the Purnam or perfect fullness.
And now we will take a little bit of time to meditate, to inquire for ourselves. Breathe in and breathe out with long, slow breaths. Notice the breath as it comes in and as it goes out. Now, notice that you exist. You exist, and you know that you exist. And investigate within yourself, within your own immediate experience. When you look within, how many do you find? Is it dual? Is it a multitude? Or is it only one? Are there two of you, one to know the other? Or only one who knows itself? Who am I? What is the nature of my identity? All right, now let us end with a short chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you for letting me share this teaching with you. This series on Ramana's 40 verses on reality will continue in the following weeks. If this satsang was of interest to you, I have more, a free book site, a YouTube site, and my blog. The URLs will be on screen next.